Welcome to In Conversation. I'm your host, Steve Iverson. Today we're talking to Stephanie Lawrence, who runs the Community Endowment of Lexington, where they raise funds to award grants to local organizations who can use it for social services, the arts, and similar purposes. And also with Janet Kern from the Foundation for Metro West, which is sort of an umbrella organization affiliated with the Community Endowment. And she's going to tell us more about their organization as well. So thank you for coming on, both of you.
Thanks for having us.
You bet. Stephanie, did I describe that accurately? The goal of your organization, the purpose of your organization, and you might like to elaborate.
Sure. No, I think that was very appropriate.
Okay.
A very appropriate description.
Okay.
Basically, in a nutshell, what I explained to people is we're raising money here in town to create a permanent endowment, so a permanent financial resource for both now and all generations of Lexingtonians to meet our needs and expand upon opportunities. So it's raising money here to then gift to nonprofit agencies and public agencies as well, who are doing work specifically to benefit Lexingtonians and our community.
And the types of organizations, again, are what?
Sure. So we have 4 areas of focus, and I'm happy also to explain how we identified and chose those areas of focus.
Please do.
To give you a little bit of a history, I served as a member of the town's Human Services Committee about 7-8 years ago. Okay. And this was at the time where there was a real trickle, you were really seeing, or the town's social service department was really seeing the trickle-down effects of the recession. And so around this monthly meeting, I heard of an increased need seen by the town's social workers, an increased number of requests going to the Fund for Lexington for one-time emergency assistance grants. I was also, at the time, introduced to a couple of other women in town who had, like me, had school-age children. They were hearing from local principals that the administration was being approached privately by families that were really struggling to be able to provide winter clothing for their children, for school time snacks, for holiday gifts. And so we met and did a lot of brainstorming about what could we create in Lexington to really provide a financial resource to fill in these gaps. And so I also got out into the field and talked to a lot of leaders of local nonprofits who are doing wonderful work.
At this point, excuse me, you did have a background in nonprofits, I believe.
That's true. That's
right.
So
that facilitated this for you. But,
yes.
But continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my background is in nonprofit management. I have a particular passion for human services, and I also have a background in grant making.
Okay.
And so in my discussions with leaders of local nonprofits, I heard over and over that they were really struggling for financial support, that when local philanthropists are thinking of where to gift their discretionary charitable dollars, they were thinking of needs in the city, not realizing that there is hidden poverty here in the Metro West and Lexington too.
Sure.
And so my co-founders and I discussed that we really wanted to create a permanent source of funding for human services and hopefully more. Here in town, Lexington Education Foundation does an amazing job providing funding opportunities for the public school system to allow for increased opportunities for the student body and teachers. The Dana Home Foundation does a wonderful job of providing grant funding to nonprofits, public agencies looking to support programs for seniors. But we really wanted to fill in the holes for health and human service funding, again, for programs specifically benefiting our town and its residents. So, but we thought, well, we have a greater opportunity. If we're creating a funding source, what other needs are there in town?
Sure.
So we met with Charlotte Rogers of Health and Human Services. We met with a couple of the selectmen to ask, did they see that there would be room for such a financial resource? And then we convened a group of community leaders and nonprofit organization leaders to ask them, well, what areas are not being funded here in town?
Right.
What is the need? And so as you explained in the beginning, Steve, we chose 4 areas to fund. So those are health and human services, the environment and conservation, arts and culture, and community building.
Okay. Thank you so much. And so you've already, what is the word, granted funds to several of these organizations?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
So we actually are about to release our 4th annual request for proposal.
Okay.
So,
and a request for proposal is when the organization describes to you what they need and how they'll use it?
That's right. We put out an annual grant application that's available online. We make it very accessible.
Okay.
And we open up the doors to proposals this one time a year. All of the proposals come into us and are read, reviewed, analyzed, and scored by our community board, which of course I'll describe our leadership, but just to fill in a very valuable piece of the puzzle, what we decided, my co-founders and I at the time of our incorporation, was that we really could hit the ground running if we partnered with an already existing grant-making organization.
Which is the Janet's organization.
That's right, which is I knew through my professional work of the wonderful accomplishments and impact held by the Foundation for Metro West, which is headquartered in Natick, but my friend and colleague Janet Kern, who's the Foundation's Director of Town Funds, can speak about their geographic scope of work.
Right. So as Stephanie was talking about filling the gaps in Lexington for some of the needs, this is the work that the Foundation for Metro West has been doing for 20 years in the 33 cities and towns in the area.
20 years now?
Over 20 years now. And so that's exactly how they describe the need and the impact that they could have as a grant making and nonprofit resource in the area.
Right.
So what Stephanie is describing is work that the Foundation has been doing, regional grant programs, through our Center for Philanthropy Education, which are nonprofit seminars and workshops that we offer for free to nonprofits in the area. And also we have youth and philanthropy programs which help teach middle school and high school youth, again, free of charge, in a program that describes how they can work, how philanthropy looks, what it looks like in the community, how to raise money, how to then distribute through their own grant making, which they do to the community. So the Foundation for Metro West had been doing that work and had started a town fund program starting in Wellesley, and Lexington was our second town fund, but for the purpose of helping people who love their own town and see the need and opportunities for benefiting their own town to be able to do that work very, very locally. So the Foundation for Metro West enables that. And so I have the privilege, I'm also a Lexington resident, which is really, really nice for me to be able to work with this town fund. But I have the privilege of working with community members and a fantastic community board in Lexington that represents the many different areas and many different perspectives in the town for what those needs and opportunities are and can be in the future.
So your organization provides training services for other groups like Stephanie's, but in addition to that also grants money to
we have a
organizations.
regional grant program where we have a competitive grant program for arts and culture and for health and human services, and we just granted over $100,000 to different organizations in the region, and just this past fall. And we also have programs that do directly grant money, for example, to food pantries for our food access program. So there's many different opportunities for the foundation to work with different organizations and community members to identify and serve the need. And I think it's important, I'd like to say that for viewers that might not know what a community foundation is, it's a foundation different from a private foundation, which has, private funds. This is the Foundation for Metro West and the Community Endowment of Lexington as an extension of the foundation. We raise money through community donations, and then that serves to then go back into the communities that we serve. So it's a public, it's individual donations, but for public use.
Rather than, for instance, one family.
That's correct. And
developing
so we really
a
count
foundation.
on a real community effort on all sides of the organization to be able to do the work.
And if I could add on to what Janet said, just to explain why we in Lexington decided to partner with the foundation. So we knew that we would be able to put money into the community much more quickly if we partnered with an already established charitable foundation than if we went it alone.
Sure.
Basically, we get an incredible amount of support from the foundation in terms of administrative assistance, but more importantly, financial and legal oversight. So they already have these working committees in place so that we knew that we could immediately go out, begin to raise money, that it would be invested wisely for us, and that we get very important guidance from them. So Janet, or the foundation's executive director, has typically joined us at every board meeting of ours and provides, again, not over this legal, administrative, financial oversight, but they have such a depth of knowledge of the needs, both across the region, but also in Lexington. And they also, with this 20-year history, know who is doing good work. So that our community board, the Community Endowment of Lexington's leadership board, we make sure we're not just reactive. We don't just put a grant proposal out into the community and wait for applicants to come to us, but we have constant discussions over what nonprofits, what public agencies do we know are doing really important and effective work, and we will make sure that we reach out to them specifically so that they know about our funding opportunities and also any general information, question and answer, collaborative convening.
Okay. So maybe we could talk about some of those groups that have applied or to whom you've given funds. What kind of groups are we talking about? So
we have put so far to date, through our first 3 annual cycles, approximately $85,000 back into the community. And our gifts have ranged from $2,000 to $10,000. So these have the ability to be really transformative awards. Thinking back to our first round, we granted money to Advocates, which is a nonprofit that works in tandem with the Douglas Home here in town. It's a residence for individuals who have suffered traumatic brain injury.
Oh, I see.
And so we gave a grant to them that allowed the Douglas Home to purchase and keep on site an adaptive bicycle that was going to allow their clients to get out and take advantage of the bike path. Basically, you probably are aware, the Douglas Home is just separated by a parking lot from the bike path.
Yeah, is it by the large municipal parking lot downtown?
Exactly, that's right.
I walked my dog through there yesterday.
And so at the very same time, we made a $10,000 award to Lexington Youth and Family Services, specifically for board training and strategic planning. This is a group that operates in donated space at the Unitarian Church on the Green. They offer free counseling to teens, as well as other programs. Since they submitted this grant application a few years ago, they've really been able to expand their programming. And so, but they found at the time they were really struggling to know their path forward. And they had a full board, but their board members really didn't know what are their responsibilities, particularly the financial responsibilities of board members, really to ensure the financial sustainability of the organization. And so they were able, with our grant, to hire a consultant to come in, to engage in full board training, and then also work with their team to put together new strategic plans. So they really had a new roadmap about what was the chosen path for the next 2 or 3 years.
Well, that's Lexington Youth and Family Services.
That's right. And then thinking more recently, we have given a grant to, let's see, Lex Farm, with a very similar grant. This most recent grant cycle, we gave them an award of $10,000 again for board training, strategic planning, and also the creation of a dashboard so that their board has set goals for the next couple of years. They really had done a tremendous amount of work in recent years in terms of establishing a board, growing the organization, and they just needed an award to allow them to grow to the next organizational level. And so they're sure, and we're sure as founders, that our grant will allow them to again create this set path, but also to expand their capacity to serve. Our hope and expectation is that they'll be expanding their programs to serve more Lexington residents and also ensure their sustainability.
The other thing I wanted to just quickly mention is that as a community foundation, we're also able to grant to public town agencies. And I think the Community Endowment of Lexington made its first grant to the Office of Public Health to be able to really study and inform residents about the ticks and tick-borne diseases. But it's a really unique opportunity that I think we'll probably want to continue to work with in the town, because there are some things that the town budget doesn't cover and won't cover until they might see that a program can be successful. And so I think there are real opportunities to encourage pilot programs working with the town.
That's right, and we make it very clear to our applicants and the greater community of prospective fundees that we're looking for innovative programming, that we're not looking to step in to subsidize a program where the agency, the public agency, would really already have that money set aside. But we're looking for them to take this opportunity to execute programs that they otherwise would not be able to, or to enter into a collaboration that, again, public funding would not provide for.
Yeah, I think you mentioned collaboration as one of the 4 things that you'd like to target, if I'm correct. And could you say more about that? Have there been other instances where that's what you supported, or are there other instances of that you would like to help out?
Sure. Well, thinking back to our first round of grants, we made an award to English at Large, which is a program that pairs volunteer tutors, so community residents who are volunteer tutors, teaching English as a second language to residents of the town who are looking to increase, for whom obviously English is a second language. And so there was such a demand for that here in town. There was a significant waiting list. And so our grant to English at Large allowed them to expand their capacity to serve. So it was allowing for increased operating expenses for, again, specifically for their Lexington program, any administrative expense that was involved with opening up, more training of volunteers, more supplies for students. And so English at Large did a wonderful job of reaching out to other community-based organizations that were also serving residents of town for whom English was a second language, and we're looking to take advantage again of this free tutoring. And also this program is a wonderful community connector. Not only do they offer these one-on-one relationships, but they also offer conversation groups. So it's connecting the students both with someone who, another resident in town who can be a support, but in terms of learning the language, but also through the conversation groups with other residents who are in the very same situation, who are looking to have a greater mastery of the language.
So they can learn more about English, but also meet people in their position. And
That's
so,
right.
Maybe network, help each other.
That's right. So I
Yeah.
think there are so many different layers to what the endowment does to strengthen the community.
But every year, we continue to encourage people to connect and consider how their organizations might together do something new that other organizations alone cannot do. So we granted to Let's Eat Together to try to see if they could work with whoever they might think could help them come up with a transportation option to their wonderful community program in Lexington
And what is that
Center.
program?
Let's Eat Together is a program that invites people once a week to come and have a free but sort of gourmet meal prepared all by volunteers, chefs, and also, more importantly, or at least equally important, have that community connection with others. So it's a public space for a public meal for the community, and so
where is that located?
It's right in Lexington Center, in the basement of the Church of Our Redeemer. So again, right next to the bike path, right there.
Right, exactly. Okay. Excuse me.
So, but you know, again, it's sort of the grant to that organization was to try to prompt that kind of thinking about, you know, how they might work with town transportation systems or other transportation options to be able to bring people from other parts of town who might not have access to that dinner there.
Oh, okay.
So that grant is still in progress, but it's an example of an idea of, you know, trying to make more connections beyond what is already in place and functioning.
Right.
Try to do something innovative on top of sometimes groups that already exist.
And that was a wonderful example of the proactive nature of our board. So Let's Eat, which again is this free community dinner here in town on Wednesday nights, they put in an application to us for operating expenses. And we knew that they had gotten another recent grant in the community, and so we thought, you know, we really don't feel as though they have an immediate need for operating funds.
Okay.
But we would love to support them in some way. So members of our community board met with their leadership to say, we love what you're doing. We think this is so important, both in terms of providing a free community meal, solving issues regarding food security, but also really as a convening of community. What other needs do you have?
Right.
And so what Let's Eat's leadership told us was that they realized that particularly during the winter, some people who otherwise would have taken advantage of the meal were not able to get themselves safely or didn't have a car at all to the church. And so we funded them a grant to pilot a transportation program. And so speaking of collaboration, we've encouraged them to reach out to the public housing communities to think of who are the community members who would really benefit from the meal but just cannot get themselves there safely.
Right.
Be it that it gets dark very early during the winter. Again, they don't have their own means of personal transportation. So I think it is a great example of us entering into these very dynamic relationships with the nonprofits here in town, and then also helping those organizations to brainstorm about, well, if this is the need, what are the other types of providers you could collaborate with to really solve this problem?
And I want to say that that kind of work is really only possible in our town fund programs and in Lexington, where you have this really committed group, what we call our community board members, who know the town, have the relationships, work with these people in different contexts, and can make those connections and have those conversations that end up producing some great ideas for grants, but also just for other kinds of support. So I think the work, certainly what I see is the work has gone beyond the grant making. I mean, the grant making is the basis, and it's obviously an important part of the kind of real impact we can have. But there's so much other impact that comes from these community members who are working together and doing all kinds of outreach and working with these very small nonprofits in some cases, and sometimes town agencies, and getting those conversations working to be productive and support and encourage and strengthen our town. It's very, very, very inspiring, I have to say, for those of us that are working at the foundation and get to see, kind of more at an arm's length, because we have to maintain some, independence. We know that we're making good grants and that there's really incredible work happening there. But I have the privilege and pleasure of getting to really see that work up close and to see the people involved in really making it happen in so many different ways. It's really wonderful.
Well, I'm glad you've come on the show, both of you, because this is very important work, and it's I'm getting a sense not only of how important your own organization's work is, but how many other organizations are out there helping. I think it's people should know about it. People need to know about it, and I'm sure that whatever good you're doing can only be multiplied if more people actually know about it. That would be my thinking. I could be wrong.
Thank you. And we have an opportunity coming up for more people to get to know us and our work. So, as we already mentioned, we are going to be putting out a 2017 request for grant proposals in early February. But as we always do, we'll be holding an information session prior to that. And so on January 26th from 9 to 10 in the morning, we'll be holding our open house information session right in the community center here in town. So we encourage any leadership of organizations that are doing work that falls within our funding areas of focus to please come. We'll have our board members there. Janet will be there, so there'll be representation from both the endowment's community board and also the foundation. Any questions about, do I need to be a 501c3 certified organization? What are going to be the components? What sort of programs have you funded in the past? Would you consider this type of program? I attended last year's, and I think I would like to be able to say that it was very valuable for the prospective applicants in the room, because I think their attendance probably allowed them to be much more efficient in really crafting an idea for their proposal. They had the opportunity to ask us, would you fund this type of program? And in some cases, we had to say, I don't think so, this is why. So why don't you think more about areas that we would be amenable to really thinking about and considering for an award.
Right. So if anyone is available to come, even if you don't work necessarily for a nonprofit, if you have some interest or particular passion for work that's happening in Lexington through these nonprofits or town agencies, come to the convening. It's a great opportunity to ask questions, as Stephanie said, but also to be able to meet others who are doing all of this work and making such a wonderful impact in our town.
Wonderful. Well, we'll be back in a moment to talk more with Stephanie and Janet.
Hey.
Hey.
Is everything all right?
Yeah, of course.
You were never a good liar.
I mean, he's finally locked up. We saved the day. I'm fine.
Sure. Just tell me what's going on.
I don't know.
You don't know what?
I don't know what to do next. Everything's different now.
Yeah, that doesn't mean you have to be.
But I am. So are you. I just wish. Have you been filming vertically the entire time? Dude, this is a movie, okay? This is cinema. It's not your sister's piano recital. Oh. Turn the thing sideways. Oh. What are you doing? Sorry.
Welcome back. It's In Conversation. I'm your host, Steve Iverson. We're speaking again with Stephanie Lawrence from the Community Endowment of Lexington and with Janet Kern of the Foundation for Metro West. We have a few minutes left, and I was hoping that, Stephanie, we could talk about both where and how you raise your funds, and how people might get what kind of people you might be looking for to join the organization and help out and so on.
Yes, thank you. So as I mentioned, we are looking to build a permanent endowment, and so the resources, the interest will be there through future generations. And so our goal is our initial goal has been to raise $1 million by the end of our 5th year. And so I'm really excited to be able to share that we just finished our 4th year, and we've raised $825,000. So we have this remaining year to close the gap of $175,000. We are looking to raise money here in town, so it's local residents and Lexington-based businesses that we're approaching to step up and be part of this community effort. And so we just are coming off of a very successful annual appeal, our year-end appeal. We raised $125,000 at the end of 2016. So we're extremely grateful to everyone who's contributed. It's because of the investment, the gifts to the endowment, that we're able to now offer this support to the nonprofit and public agency communities.
How has it been breaking down with the donations? Private individuals versus businesses and so forth?
So our first push, our real push, has been towards individuals. We do have a civics partner program, and so we, at our most recent grant award ceremony every June, we have a public grant award ceremony where we present the checks to our year's grantees. we honored the 3 civic groups that had stepped forward as founders. And what we consider a founder is an individual, a family, a business that makes a commitment of $5,000 or more. And this commitment can be spread over the course of a few years. So we were very pleased to honor Lex Restaurant, which stepped up as a founder. Also the Chinese American Association of Lexington and Finnegan Development. And so we hope that these 3 are leading the way to what will be a much broader effort, contribution from the business community. Again, that will be a real push for us during 2017.
Yeah, and we have, I think it's important to mention that we have 60 or more individuals and families that have had the ability to become founders and have really been incredibly generous with their passion and support for the Community Endowment of Lexington. And it seems like to me that it's kind of infectious as people are starting to learn about the good work and also see how others have invested in their community through the Community Endowment of Lexington. More and more people are able to help. So we're really looking forward to being able to get to that point, for the $1 million point, and as soon as possible be able to invite everyone to a celebration and continue the work forward with a larger community of supporters. So it's great.
That's right.
When you reach that endowment goal of $1 million, forgive me, I don't know anything about this, does that become a lump sum of money that in some way is invested to continue to grow the endowment, or how does that work?
That's right. So this is where the Foundation for Metro West is able to really help, which is part of the reason Stephanie explained that they came to the Foundation for Metro West. We have, at the Foundation, we have many other funds for grant making and providing funds into the community, and so we're able to pool all those funds with our and invest them, so that the fund certainly does grow and is continuing to grow through investments and through donations. So yes, but then there's a ability to spend a certain amount. That's the whole point, is to be able to take some of that money and invest it back into the community through grant making.
Right, and it's the intent of our community board that we will continue to push in fundraising beyond that $1 million, because we do see ourselves as being very innovative and we want to be proactive. We would love to grow our grant making program to be more than just an annual program. We would like to be able to act upon a sudden unexpected need in our community, so that if it's brought to our attention, we can, as a group, the community board, sit down and say, you know, there is this sudden problem here in our community. We'd really like to be able to fund a group to offer a solution now, rather than waiting an additional 6 months, 8 months. We'd like to put out a one-off proposal specifically to address these needs. And again, because our community board represents so many different other organizations, our community board members come to us with a great understanding already of our community. Most of them have served time on other town committees or nonprofits. We will have the knowledge at the table of who is doing great work in that area. And so we will be able to reach out to nonprofits to say, we know, as you do, that this is a need here. Would you like to apply for this grant that we're going to put out into the community within the next 3 months, 6 months?
Okay. Anything else you'd like to make sure we touch on while we're talking?
Well, I think in addition to our fundraising push, we're obviously looking for donations from community members to help us close this gap and meet our year-end goal. And we're always looking to add to our board and our working committees. And so, Janet, what's the best way for people who are interested in either participating through time or funds to get a hold of us?
Well, certainly, I would be happy to take any calls or emails. jkern@foundationformetrowest.org.
Thank you.
You can find The Community Endowment of Lexington website is lexingtonendowment.org.
Okay.
So please contact me. I would love to put you in touch with Stephanie or other members of the board who can get you involved.
How about if someone from another town sees the show and says, we'd like something just like that in our town?
They should definitely call me. Yes, definitely call me again or contact me. We're always looking to see what kind of impact we can have in other towns through our Town Fund program. And we really point to Lexington. We've started to point to Lexington as really one of the one of our best.
Right. How many are there? Is it Lexington,
right
Wellesley?
Now we have 4. We started with Wellesley. And then we have Wellesley, Lexington, Southborough, and we're just starting a town fund in Medfield.
Oh.
So I'm thrilled to get to know these communities and again point back to Lexington as doing really great work that I think is a model for the other town funds.
A model sounds like the perfect word. You can, as new people decide they'd like to do this for other towns, you can say, well, Lexington is doing it very well.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you both again for coming on. I think it's very important for people, as many people as possible, to know about this kind of work. It sometimes isn't publicized quite enough, I think.
Well, thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much.
You bet. Again, Stephanie Lawrence from the Community Endowment of Lexington and Janet Kern from the Foundation for Metro West. It's been In Conversation. Thanks for watching.